So thank you for coming back and joining us for part 2 of the explanation of our Target 90 analysis. I started the presentation in part 1 by talking a little bit about Reloop and how we were doing this work. I'm going to jump right into part 2. One of the things that we did when we looked at the material flow in Europe to try to assess what the benefits are of that closed loop recycling, it requires you to know what the status quo is today. And currently in Europe, we had to look at all 3 material types because we looked at glass, plastic, and aluminum. And basically, it's looking at where is the material that is getting collected for recycling ending up. So I'm going to show you as one material example, PET, plastic beverage bottles. But in fact, PET is used, bottle PET is used by several markets, and you have them up here. There's obviously manufacturing new PET bottles, manufacturing other PET plastic packaging, and of course, manufacturing textiles. But only 32% are actually getting recycled back into bottles. So the question really is, what would happen if A, we collected more, got up to 90, and B, increased this number from 32 into the maximum possible, which is about 75 for PET, about 95 for aluminum, and 95 for glass, increasing circularity and increasing collection. So what we found, and we found it for all 3 materials, but I'm just going to show you PET because PET is where we have some recycled content targets currently in place. In terms of PET, you can see that the orange is target 90, the getting to 90, and the blue is status quo. You can see this is virgin demand, a huge reduction in virgin demand by 2030. So that is a very impressive value proposition for those industries looking to reduce their virgin procurement. In terms of producers of bottles, there's enough capacity today if you were to give all the rPET equally amongst all the beverage producers in Europe, you get about 15%. If it were all to go to beverage producers, about 15% recycled content today, status quo by 2030. But if you were to go to 90 throughout Europe, you could actually reach almost 60% for every single bottle producer, and that does not include imported materials. So when we talk about getting to 50% recycled content, this is actually doable for everybody that sells beverage bottles in plastic. So when we looked at it, and I would suggest that you go to the report, I'm not going to get into too much detail here, but to say that we have a starting position here, status quo at the top, and then it's a dual effort, right? We've got the increasing circularity. So we go from PET, which is 32%, like I said, bumping it up to 75% and seeing what that's going to give us. And then we also go to what is it going to give us if we increase up to 90%. So in both cases, we're doing it independently to see what it offers us in terms of extra material in the marketplace, reduced virgin demand for those that need it. And finally, you've got that dual action. What happens when you do both? So here I want you to focus at the bottom of the diamond, and you will see that when you have a 90% collection target and you're hitting 90% and you're doing maximum circularity in the case of PET, the beverage producers have the potential of reducing their virgin demand by year 2030 by 20% reduction in virgin demand, just because there's so much more rPET on the market. And as a total, as it affects the entire industry, when you look at all 3 together, not just beverage bottles, it actually has an impact of reduction of 1.6 million metric tons of virgin. So there is a net benefit. It doesn't just benefit the beverage producers. There is a system-wide net benefit. So that is a really exciting story. And that is the real powerful message from our study, is this bottom part of the diamond. In this case, we have it for PET 2030. This is a message to beverage producers around Europe to say, you should be getting behind this because this is a great opportunity for you in the next 10 years and frankly 20 years. This is a 2040 projection, and here you can see a 41% reduction. It's even greater because that second 10-year block, when everybody's already at 90, there's just that much more material in the system. So you're going to get a really, really good benefit in that second 10 years. We also have it for aluminum, where you can see it's about 2.2 million metric tons of reduced virgin input of aluminum. That's a 40% reduction up to 2030. If you go further up to 2040 with all that material in the system, can-to-can recycling, and cans can go around and around and around and around. There's great efficiencies in terms of recycling. We're looking at a 64% reduction for beverage producers that want to reduce the virgin input in their cans. And finally, moving to glass, a huge reduction because in terms of metric tons, because glass is just heavy, but again, 32% reduction in virgin inputs for the glass industry. Now, even though raw materials aren't necessarily that energy intensive to extract, the real energy savings is when you put cullet in a furnace to make glass bottles, you can turn the furnace down. That means less energy, and we're trying to reduce our energy, so this is a great strategy. Get more clean cullet into furnaces, and we can turn down those furnaces. And here's the projection for 2040, 55% reduction in virgin input, turning down those furnaces. We took all the cumulative for the three materials and we looked at what it meant in terms of virgin displacement. And we attributed what we know are fairly reasonable carbon indicators of what that virgin displacement means. And I'll tell you that if we go with Target 90 now in Europe through the Packaging Waste Directive, set the targets for 2029 for all beverage packaging, what we'll see is that by the year 2040, the emissions that are saved as a result of this policy initiative will amount to 4.3%. That's 4.3% of the annual European climate reduction goal by 2040. So that is a huge potential in terms of contribution to climate change reduction. And just to say that countries like Spain, France, Italy, and Poland, where beverage packaging collection is not very good, they would very much boost, they would be very much part of that target that I'm showing you for climate change impact, because they're so big and there's so much consumption and waste in those countries. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation, and please, if anyone has any questions or needs more information, go to our target90.org landing page, and we are hoping that we can provide you with more information. And we are always happy to model your country's numbers, since we probably have the supporting data, and we can work together to do that. So thank you very much, and goodbye.